What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Kyle. We're here at the Modest House, and today we're going to be installing Versetta Stone. Now, I'm going to have probably two videos on this install. One of them is going to be more of a big picture install video, and that will be coming. But today, what I'm going to do is focus on outside and inside corners with the stone. And that's because probably the #1 comment I get about Versetta Stone is why don't they have pre-made outside corners or inside corners, and how does that all work? I'm going to show you guys today in the video how we handle our outside corners, our inside corners, and try to make them look as perfect as possible and as natural to the general public. When they drive by, they would not even know that you're using a panelized stone. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so first thing to know is Versetta Stone has two different types of panels. They have their standard panel. That's what we're looking at here, and that is signified by this black metal flashing at the top. That's what your nail fin is. You'll notice on the end, it's a flat end with a tongue and a groove, okay? The way this works is they lock into each other. So that's how you know that you're using a standard panel versus the corner. Now, these are going to be both inside and outside corners. What you'll notice here is, look at this. The stone face wraps around. That is for the outside corner so that when you put the pieces together, it looks finished versus this. This is also an inside corner, and what you'll notice is when you look at the corner or the end, do you notice how flat this is? They try to make the inside and outside corners as flat as possible versus your standards. Look at that. There's a bunch of ins and outs like natural stone. Those don't work as well in a corner situation because stones don't start lining up. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. What we're gonna do is, I always recommend start in your outside corner and work towards an inside corner or a window or a door. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so starting off, guys, you gotta think about your layout and how this is all gonna go together. And most importantly, what is the priority on the visual? So every time that we do a corner, this joint and how this goes together, both on the outside and over there on the inside, is important. So what you have to do is think, okay, Greg has a outside corner with this nice finished edge. I want my pieces to come together and this to look as seamless as possible. What that means is I don't want to start on the inside corner and come this way and then be tasked with cutting this piece specifically to fit exactly how I want it to look. So we'll start here. We'll work into the corner because that cut piece on the inside, it's gonna get buried eventually and you'll see that. And when I work to my door over here, I can cut this exactly to fit because I have an exact dimension. If I'm Greg, just as an idea, if Greg is coming from that side and I already have this piece here, I have to make sure that all of these things line up and look good. And that's not always easy to do because the stone is not like a perfect dimension, okay? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get this notched off. We're gonna clean up Greg's edge so it looks as good as possible. And we're gonna kind of start here. And we won't always start on this outside corner, but it depends on the layout, and you'll see. So we're just getting rid of this. There's nothing specific about it. You could get a grinder and cut it off, but that's just dust and stuff. So layers in there, Greg, and we'll see what we wanna do for the look. Okay, so you can already see here that there's a gap here, it's tight here. So what we want to do is take off some of this stuff, and we got a couple different options, grinder or cut. I think I'm going to do the grinder first, Greg, okay, because it looks like maybe it's just some concrete aggregate built up on this backside. Yep. All right, so this is gonna be what your joint is gonna look like on a corner. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stagger these. So the next row is gonna have the face come all the way out, and then we'll come into it. But we're gonna finish this first row, and I'm gonna say outside corner version 1. There is something that we can do to make this even better, but not everybody's gonna do it. So we're gonna do this whole corner kind of normal. And then I will show you guys a tip that we picked up over the last couple of years that makes these corners really look mint and almost disappear entirely. So let's get through this. We'll get this fastened. You got that for a second? I always like to go ahead and screw my bottom row in and it also allows you to kind of maneuver things if you have to and you don't like the way something is working out later. Pulling nails is never fun. Are you at 33, Greg?
Let me just double check. Is that what you are, 33?
I'm 33. Yeah.
33.
Okay. So you'll notice here, guys, this is another super good trick. We have a snap line going around the whole building that we shot with a laser. This is our reference line. This is how we maintain the proper elevation on our screw rows, so that when our stone goes up, we don't get like this, or around the corner we're not at varying elevations, because when we run these joints around, we need everything to be right on the same plane. So the reference line is very important. So you heard Greg call out 33. That's just so you understand, we're just measuring the ends, and we're measuring to our snap line within a 16th of 33. Like that, we got to be within a 16th every time. Okay. All right. So this is the first outside. We're going to work into this corner, and we'll work into that doorway. Son of a gun, Greg.
What?
This is why we use screws, guys. I forgot to show you something. Can't believe you forgot, Greg.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yep.
Universal corners. Like I said, they don't have a tongue and groove on it. They also have an unfinished edge. When you try to butt this into another piece, it won't look good. So what we need to do is we need to cut that straight, and we'll come over to our saw for that. Okay, we're just giving ourselves a nice, clean, finished edge. And what that means, Greg is going to also have to get rid of the tongue on just the one side, right there.
Just gonna...
No, you just got to get rid of it.
Yeah, I was just looking to see how it
Yep.
looks up against it.
Okay, nice, 33.
Yep, and then
Yep.
also that guy.
So I'm just gonna, since we measured this side, I'm just looking to flush this up here. Okay, so like I said, we start here, we work into the corner, and that is because if you start in the corner and work out, you have to measure this precise, and it can be a little tiresome and cumbersome because you don't know exactly where you're gonna wanna put it until you put the pieces together, and that's hard to do if you can't just put the whole piece up and move it where you want it. So we're gonna work into the corner. This doesn't matter as much. This can be slightly loose. So I'm just gonna cut this about an 1/8 or 3/16 loose. We're gonna cut this at 26 inches, and we have all of our kind of, air buried in this corner, okay? So 26 inch, we'll cut a piece down. The only thing I'm going to do...
We want a red though.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what I was just going to say, is we're gonna use a red because it's an inside and an outside corner, and they give us a very flat end. So instead of getting a tongue and groove, and instead of measuring from this end and cutting right here at 26, I'm actually gonna measure from this end, and I'm gonna put the cut right up against this piece. What that means is I'm gonna wanna kind of look at where my cuts are. Now, I don't think I might make it. I think I will actually, Greg. What I'm talking about is, you see this grout line, this fake grout line? If I put this in super tight and I cut it right here, you're gonna see this little nub of stone. It's gonna look odd because there'll be a cut line and then this little nub. I always wanna cut either right on a line, or I wanna cut just past it so that you don't see any small little pieces of stone. So I don't know that I wanna use this piece because it's gonna gap me pretty hard over here to get it to fit. Greg, can you grab another one and let's take a look? You can definitely throw Versetta Stone up very quickly if you don't care about the overall appearance, but we try to make sure that it's as, good looking as possible. So this is a good example of what we want to use. My cut is going to be right about here. So when I put this and cut this off, I don't have any little tiny stones that look out of place. It'll look like full-size stones and your eye won't be drawn to it. So we're going to use this piece right here. I think that one will work. That's right there.
That actually works.
Yep, this one actually works better. And the reason it works better is because the end is flatter. So when the other piece comes in, it'll look even better. So we're gonna use this guy here. Okay, so nice and tight. Your eye's not going to be drawn there. We don't have any tiny little cuts coming like from this side. And we've got a fairly flat inside corner right here. All right, so we've made it into the inside corner. Now we could come back out here and do the same thing. Put a piece, work into the inside corner. But that's not actually what I think is the best way to do it. We're gonna get this row coming here. So we're gonna take a standard, all right? We're gonna take, we might not have to, we're gonna put it up first just to save ourselves a little bit of effort, okay? This is close, but we're hitting, I think I'm hitting my groove. Actually, I'm not, Greg. Because this is nice and flat, this goes into it. If you were using a centerpiece, like right here where this is sticking out, this would have to be notched out. So this actually looks really good.
Really good.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and use it. Just got lucky, I guess. So we're gonna make sure it's flush. .33, that's good. Oh no, we don't have a reference line through the window. Well, luckily Greg and I made another reference line, measured off of this reference line, so that we can at least check through here. So what I can do is just real quickly.
Should be 3 inches.
Yeah, it's like 2 15/16. 3 inches. We should be 3 inches.
Should be
but
3.
We're always going for within a 16th. That's the goal. Okay, so now we've come all the way. We've got our first inside corner. This is where I think now we work from the inside out, and you're gonna see why, and it's because it makes it easier for us to get our measurements. So we're gonna take a inside corner. We're looking for one that is gonna be as flat as possible. And also, we got a couple weird things here actually that we're gonna have to do, and I don't think it's for today's video, so you're just gonna see some stuff happen. But going around these windows, those details will be in the other video. But we've got to get some measurements and we got to get some marks because this piece is going to be getting cut into some window trims. So let's do that, Greg, and we'll get back to this and it'll be ready to go. Let's see, 3-footer coming out, Greg. I think we can do that.
I think so.
Yep. All right, now we're gonna work out of the inside corner, and like I said, all of this stuff going on here, that'll be in the another video. It has nothing to do with inside and outside corners. The thing I do wanna point out though, is we've got a standard piece, and we're gonna be now going into this corner. Now, this is gonna kinda be to highlight what you do when maybe it's not perfect when you just put the piece right in. So I'm gonna take this piece, I'm gonna shove it in there, and what you're gonna notice is that gap is not as pretty. It's a lot bigger, and that's because two things. First off, we got to take this guy off. Okay, this will make it a little better, but we still have a pretty sizable gap down here. Now, we're not looking to scribe this thing. You could get a compass out and, you could do all this and cut it. And I've done that. I've actually done that, and it's probably not really worth it. What I like to do is kind of figure out, okay, this gap is the biggest, so I want kind of to cut from here down to nothing. And I'm gonna see how that goes in before I get crazy and scribe, because I will use a grinder if there's a really high point, but let's first cut it straight and see how it looks. All right, so this is just a straight cut, and I don't know if it's gonna be up to our standard, but it's the first thing I'm gonna do because it's the easiest, okay? So, when we look at this, you can still see there's a little bit of a gap down here, and it is tight touching right in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my pencil, okay? It's not quite the full thickness of the pencil, but we're just gonna kind of hit some of the areas that it's sticking out drastically. And that's not even drastic. It's actually not bad at all. We'll just take our grinder. So definitely you guys want to make sure you have a grinder. Probably should be wearing a mask, all that good stuff. You definitely want to do it on an angle, so you're taking more material out of the back side than the front side. What do you think, Greg? Because I can tell you, unless I get super tight to the wall,
okay with
that's pretty dang good.
I really like that.
Yeah. So what that means is that's what we're going to run with. You can see we're going to kind of, what do they call that? Alternate? Yeah, we're going to alternate this joint. So we're gonna go ahead and put our screws, and I'll show you why we worked into this corner and now we're working out of this corner when we get down to the other end. Corner pieces, they do have a returned little chunk of concrete because this could be an outside corner and they want that to be finished. So if you're using that as a middle of the wall detail, you gotta take that little bit of chunk out. There, just so the groove or the tongue can continue to go through that groove. All right, buddy, we're looking for 25-ish. Yeah.
Just a hair under 25.
Yep. All right, so why did we work into the corner on the first row and we're working out of the corner on the second row? I kind of already said something. When you are doing these ends, because now we're going to be capping something like this, so we'll alternate our corner. It's kind of hard to start right here, go into the corner and get that perfect, right? We could have done this. We could have put our first pieces here, cut into that corner. The problem is the way the tongues and grooves and all that stuff works out, it's easier to come out of the corner when you're looking for a nice, clean, tight detail. Imagine if I would have worked into the corner, I would have cut my piece, and then I would have seen that that had a gap at the very bottom. I wouldn't have been able to cut off more material and shove the piece in, because then my piece would be too small. I'd have to cut a whole nother piece. This allows me to make sure that that's perfect. Then I can come out here, take my piece, which I don't know if we're gonna use this piece here, but that doesn't really matter. I can now measure right to where I wanna be. 23¼ So I can cut this piece, and in theory, it should go, boom, perfect. I always cut this a little tight because you can always shave more off. You just can't grow the stone. That should work right here. So we got all these 3 pieces.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So just as a little tip, when we cut, what we keep on looking at is where these grooves are. When I cut, my goal is, you see how much bigger this piece is than this side? If I end up putting the stone together, I don't want to see the cuts as much as possible. They don't look bad, but I want to see this finished edge. So what I'm going to do when I cut it is I want to cut on the line, but I want to cut just off to the line, so when the next piece comes tight, it looks like a nice groove. So I'm just going to line up my saw. We're going to cut this and I'll show you what I mean. So we have the finished edge, but I also left the mortar joint line, so when the next piece goes against it, which you'll see here, I just think it gives a better finished look, so little things to look out for. So we've got our piece here. You'll notice that this is now gonna change our overlap. This is the wraparound. Now the next row is gonna be on this side of the corner wraparound, and we've got our staggered joint. Sometimes you have to play with these, but whenever I measure this, the reason this is so much easier is because coming out of the corner, I can now put my piece here on the corner and get an accurate measurement. Okay, I can see exactly what I want, versus if I start in the corner and go to that corner, remember that all that cutting I had to do on that last piece, if I would have cut it to be tight, put it in there, and then seen a big gap, I would have had to shave off more material, and then the piece wouldn't work. It'd be too small and I'd have to start all over again. So coming out of a corner, when you have to cut the piece to fit, it makes sense. Going in, when you don't care because it's gonna get hidden by the next piece that slides into it, you go into the corner. Okay, so now we've got this piece I cut to the measurement. Go ahead and get in there. And what I'm seeing here is I'm a little bit too tight. See my gap here? This piece can actually go in a little bit tighter, but that's good because I've learned, cut this piece slightly too large. Sometimes you have to do the same sort of deal and cut on a slight angle. So that's what I'm going to check, because when I put this here, here, 1 second. You like it there, Greg?
Yeah, that's better. That's tight.
I'm looking where this sits flush. You can kind of see that I got to cut this back. So I'm just going to eyeball this. And then down here, I'm not very far away, so I'm only going to cut a little bit off. So I just got to take a little bit off this, or I could actually take it off of this. Let's do that first. Sometimes just taking all these bumps off makes it go pretty good. Other times it doesn't, but you won't know until you try. See? Look at that. What do you think about that, my guy?
Much better.
Much better.
Much better.
Take a little, see how when I put the screw over here, it flattens it out and opens it up just a hair. Just take a hair more off.
Still doing it.
Yeah, that's because it's hitting right here. I'm good with that gap right there, buddy. Nice, even. All right, so we're gonna repeat that. We're gonna go with the face here into the corner and vice versa. So let's go ahead and do that. These are kind of the tips and tricks for a basic corner, how to make it look as good as possible. So let's get through this, and then I'll show you kind of another tip that we like to do to really clean up the corners. Now I know you might be looking at this saying these are small pieces. Just wait till it's all done and then we'll step back and look at it. I think the number that I always go with is 8 inches. You want to at least use an 8-inch piece, and that might even be a Versetta Stone kind of number. I'm not really sure. That's always been our kind of go-to number. So stay 6-8 inches off a stagger if you can, and use 8-inch piece or so. We've actually stuck like 4 or 5-inch pieces in there. As long as it's not, you know, a bunch of little pieces of stone, it's fine. But anyway. All right, Now we're just gonna cut to this line here. This is where a little tricky, Greg, so I'm just gonna kind of cut one and then I'll play with it because I gotta go to my line here for my window trim. So we're gonna cut it long because I'm probably gonna have to do something to it. So what I mean by that is kind of why I don't go out of a corner or go into a corner, because like with this piece, because we knew we had to kind of trim all this down. Same thing here, I gotta cut to my window trim line. I'm gonna try to find the longest point, yes, the one that's furthest back, and cut it at that first. So like this is 14 1/4, this is 14 1/4, but this is only 14 1/8. So if I were to measure this, cut 14 1/8, put it in there, have a gap, have to cut some material off, the piece is gonna be too small. But if I cut my shortest measurement, 14 1/4, by the time I trim a little bit, it should, in theory, end up at 14 1/4. We'll see. Look at that big stone. That's like literally just a whole piece of stone right there. In fact, what I think I'm gonna do...
You're gonna upset a lot of actual masons calling it stone.
This is stone. This is real stone. This is right from the quarry down the road.
It's like calling Taco Bell authentic.
It is authentic. I don't know your argument here, man. It tight, and obviously this is probably my biggest gap right up here. This one I might have to do a little bit of scribing down here, and maybe I'll be able to get rid of that if I cut that. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Doubt it's going to be good on the first time, but okay. So where are we hitting? Looks like we're hitting here, and maybe I'll take a little bit more off there.
Much better.
I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty.
So now that I have that, I've got my mark on the wall. I can cut right to it. So that's perfect. Nice thing is the cap is got a nice overhang on it. Good here, good here. Go ahead and cap that and see what she looks like. And push it tight to the back. This, just the screw flange. That ain't bad, my guy.
No?
That ain't bad. Let me step back and look. It's always good to step back and look once in a while, because up close it might look decent. I got no problem with that, man.
If you got no problem, I have zero problem.
What's your measurement?
I might have no problem.
Okay, that is the pieces. Now, all we gotta do is our wainscot cap. So this gets us through putting the pieces together. You can see we've got this alternating weave is what we would call it, and do the same thing on the inside corners. So hopefully those tips helped you guys get a good understanding how to make this all come together. Now, you guys have all been super close, right? And it's very easy to critique this because it is a man-made product, because it is not mortar jointed, because it's got these gaps, all this other stuff. Let's just take a step back. Come on. What a difference. You know, the goal is for things to look good at inches, but in reality, we're the only ones that are gonna be at inches.
I try to strive for making it look good for my house.
No, 100%, dude. I mean, you know what it really is all about. Is it good enough for the girls to rerun with? And I can promise you, my wife would be like, Kyle, that looks great. That looks awesome. But we do have one more tip I wanted to share with you for making these outside corners look even better. Problem is, for us, I don't have that with me today. So I'm gonna have to come back tomorrow. My clothes are gonna change, but I'll show you a tip to make even the ugliest of joints that maybe you didn't do a perfect job disappear. All right, guys, so here's the tip I'm talking about. When you have cracks that you just aren't happy enough with, what you're gonna wanna do is get a product called Morflex. This is made by Sashco. We've been using this on Versetta Stone for a while. They have a bunch of different colors. Take a good look at this crack, and let's go ahead and take care of it. All right, looking pretty good, but I probably could put a little bit more down here. No big deal, just pull it apart. Really, you can see where you need more because it's not been touched by the stone. So there you go, just take your finger, kind of clean it up. And now you have what appears to be a nice mortar joint. All right, so we've got our corner pretty much completed. You can either do some Morflex or leave the joints raw, guys. I think this looks just as good because we've got cracks every 3 foot all over the place, and your eye doesn't really pay attention to it, but if you wanna go above and beyond, Morflex is the way to go, especially if you got gaps that just, you couldn't get tight, right? Now that we have our 4 rows on, here at this job, we're gonna do a wainscot sill cap, and outside corners, inside corners. Since we're doing this, let's go ahead and do the sill cap also, and we'll show you how we do that because it can be just a little tricky. Okay, so here is our sill cap. We've got, I do believe they call this charcoal, and what we need to do is make a miter. We've got an outside miter. It is a little tricky because there's really no great way to mount this on a saw to get it cut. Now, obviously we've got a joint here, a 3 foot piece way over here, a joint here. Try to look at your layout because you don't want these to line up with a joint. So we want to kind of do the same sort of deal as when we laid our panels, and we want to have, you know, not a strict joint right on another joint. If this goes here, this goes here, this piece will go here. Okay, I think that might actually work just fine. Do me a solid. Let's get another 3 footer and let's set that here. The thing to remember is when you cut these, I've messed this up a couple times and I think, okay, I'm gonna have this piece left over, which will come around. You actually won't, because by the time you cut your miter out and then cut another miter, the piece is basically losing almost 6 inches. So it's a little tricky. Also, always start at an outside corner. Don't run into an outside corner if you can help it. So we're gonna be somewhere in here.
Be a little piece there on the end.
Well, that's what I'm actually, okay, so that's gonna give me like a 7.5 inch piece around the corner, which will be, it's okay. I mean, it keeps me like in the middle of this piece. And if I go bigger, actually, I'm gonna be on this joint. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. This is pretty close to almost exact. I'm gonna go heavy, so we can always cut a hair off of that if we're just short, but I don't wanna be short. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
All right, now we gotta cut this down. First thing to consider when cutting is cut from the face in. It does get a better cut, which means you don't have as much chipping or break off. The next thing is you need something to almost set this on, because it's not always perfectly flat, nor is the bottom. You've got the tongue and then you've got this little drip edge. Those are not always exactly in plane with each other. So you can't rely on just setting it down, because when you go put it in your groove over on the wall, it could be tilted one way or the other. So what we do is we just grab a piece of wood here, and the reason being, it sits in the flat bottom, okay? So when we put that there and we push it up tight against our groove, that's gonna give us our best chance of being as square as possible. So now what I need to do is just find my mark, which is right here. All right, get this up against my 45. So I see my mark, lining it up with the cut lines on the table so I know about where I'm gonna cut. Okay. All right, so we hit our pencil mark. That's probably a good thing. Now we got to cut the next one. And you can use a whole nother piece, but it's nice when you have the same piece mitering, if you've ever done woodwork or a grain match, because this is so, you know, bumpy, it's not a flat surface. If you just grab a random other piece, you could have one side that's bigger than the other. It's nice to get as close to the same profile as possible. So now we're going to switch this to the other side. There, there. And we're just going to maximize this piece as much as possible. So I'm going to take off as little as possible, but to get my miter. Want to go nice and slow. That good? Yeah. All right, so now we have our two pieces. And because they're from the same piece at the same point, the profiles line up pretty good. But how's it gonna look on the wall? I don't know. Let's go take a look. We always gotta play with them a little bit. Okay, so this one's gonna have to come out. So I think we can make this look really good. Are you tight, push tight, Greg?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Now go ahead and throw that one on and see how close we are. I got my hand on it.
Okay.
This looks really nice. I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. We don't always get a good cut like this, but we can fix it if we don't. How far are you? Please tell me.
I would say, I mean, it's so close. Probably like a 16th overhang.
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 Well, that's good, because
yes.
we can always cut that piece. All right, so, yeah. Come on. Okay. So what we need to do now for this is we're gonna work towards this inside corner, but we gotta make sure that this is nice and level. Okay, so looks like you could go up a hair. Right there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hit this joint because it's money. All right.
Tell me what you think, because
yeah, we'll cut it.
Yeah,
we'll cut that. It's just a hair, but we need to because it's otherwise it's gonna be too close to our smart side. And since this is gonna go up against this side, it's okay if we make a cut. Right about there, okay? Awesome. So we're good here. Now we'll go ahead and hit our other side into the corners. And I can already tell you that based on my eyeball, this piece looks like it's slanting down, but we'll fix that when we get a couple fulls on here. And we're looking to get as straight as possible because this is the defining line on your trim. Nobody's gonna see these lines exactly because they're really well hidden. But if you don't use a reference line like we did and keep each row as close to perfect as possible, when you get to this stage where you're trying to get a straight cap, it is very difficult. So this is the real reason why you use a reference line. Okay. So that's gonna mess that up just a hair, but not much actually. Just depends on how this screws in. All right, grab one more, Greg.
Okay. Oh, beautiful.
Okay, level. Set it right on top of all these and we'll come from the corner and see how we are. Okay. So based on the level, it's perfect. It's literally, so from your end, you're good. You got a drill?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and drill yours. All right. So
you got
it looks
weird going on by you.
No, this just got to come up a little. So go ahead and hit both of these right there. Perfect. Love it. And then we're gonna go ahead and hit that, and then we'll see if we have to fix this. A nice thin piece of rock. We're gonna try this first.
Oh, bring the face out?
That might be too much.
That's gonna be way too much.
I agree. I guess it's not. It's weird the way that worked. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised. So, heck yes. So, what we do, this is the little tricks that you don't always see, guys.
It's a new one here at our buildings as well.
No, I've done this before.
Have you?
Yeah, I 100% have. Just gonna set that in some Morflex. Yeah, I'm gonna throw some in there. You'll never see it. They do make a better color than this, but all right, since we have the opportunity, we went ahead and threw some charcoal, which this is like a dang near perfect match. And we're just gonna go ahead and put some here. I don't wanna do a lot because it's fairly tight. Okay. Go ahead and get this screwed. The nice thing about this too is it will stay closed. So the Morflex is gonna be able to be flexible, get it? Morflex. And we're just gonna take that, since it's such a dang good color match, just kinda put it on here, wipe the excess off. It's got a little bit of sand and grout in there, so boom, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Outside's done. We're to the inside now. Let's go ahead and cut this inside and wrap this up after I get all this Morflex off my finger. Let's go 17 3/8. That's gonna be tight. Now this is where we have to kind of make a nice tight miter, Greg. So this is gonna be cut like this. So what I'm saying is now my miter is gonna be like this, and the face is not going to be identical. Hopefully it's close enough, but we really don't. Insides aren't as big of a deal because you can kind of, most of the
tips however you want.
Yeah, exactly. Nice hole, dude. I just don't want to rip anything. Okay, so let's go. I don't know, that's gonna be a good miter. I think it's too big.
Not like too open?
We won't know until we get the other one. So let's go. Let's just go ahead and cut the other one first. And this is gonna be a little tricky because we might have to cut it.
Go off the face. Yeah, put that on and then go off the face.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's okay if you're a little bit big.
Yeah. Still got it, dude. You see those moves? Holy
Good
crap.
thing you didn't have to. I mean,
I might have just pulled something, but it's all good.
you sure know how to disappoint me today.
Okay, we're a little long, which is okay, because we can always cut this miter down a little. But what do you think? Throw the level on there and let's see if this is about where it's gonna be.
Looks a little high, maybe.
I think you'd be surprised.
Touch high, but I would run it. Honestly.
I don't. You can't go any lower. You're literally on this piece, so don't tell me it's high. You just want to see me fail.
I'm just saying it's a touch
Okay,
high, but I would run
so
it.
we need this to move over just a little, which is probably the distance of my original mark. Get down. I'm hitting something. I could still cut a scotch off.
I don't know if you need to. If it's a scotch, I wouldn't mess with it, probably. You could go down that corner. Unless,
maybe I can clean off some of the stuff in here.
you were a little higher than the last time.
Okay. Go ahead and put your stick of truth on there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think you run it.
Hello.
Easy, dog.
I don't know what was going on there. It wouldn't go, and then all of a sudden it did.
Everything just happened there.
That was a lot. Let's just do this. So we got this nice level reference line. It's probably gonna be good enough. 6 3/8. 6 3/8. Okay. All right, there we go. So we've got this stone capped. We'll throw some more fasteners in it. And then this is ready for our aluminum flashing because we've got smart side going here and we need to separate the stone from the smart side, and that's what our aluminum flashing will do. So, hey, this is the video, guys. I thought, you know, a lot of people always come in the comments about the corners on the Versetta Stone. So we've got outside corner, we got inside corner, we've got a little bit of a Morflex trick if you really just can't get those nice tight corners and you want to do a little bit better. I recommend Morflex. And then we've got our sill caps, outside corner, inside corner. They're a little bit trickier because you got to keep them, you know, on the right plane, otherwise your miters get off. But hopefully this video helped somebody, or maybe made some decisions, whether it's good or bad, on if you're going to use Versetta Stone on your future project. But if you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it. And there will be a full video on the whole Versetta Stone install, the aluminum flashings, both the window caps, aluminum flashings on that. That whole thing will be in another video. So make sure you look for that. And I'm going to go ahead and keep working here. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you on the next one.